Another dramatic day in the markets. The Dow lost 106 points. The Nasdaq was down 22. The S&P 500 dropped 10. For the week, the major averages all came in down more than 1%. So it's correction time. If the Dow's off 3%, question is, what happens next? Let's bring in our investment pros. We have Larry Glazer, Mayflower Advisors, and Lee Munson, Chief Investment Officer of Portfolio LLC and author of Rigged Money. Larry Glazer, I want to try something new tonight. There's a million things we could talk about, Larry, including today's lousy consumer confidence numbers and manufacturing. But here's what I want to ask you. As a professional investment manager, what's the most exciting positive thing you see out there? Where's the positive excitement?
Sure. Well, certainly next week, investors are going to have plenty of negatives and things to focus their attention on. And there's going to be a lot of noise in the market about what the Fed may or may not do. But we need to cut through that noise. We need to filter that noise and focus on what we can control. And what's positive and what's good and what's strength is the domestic strength versus the global weakness. In that domestic strength, in all that noise is an opportunity. That is in the energy market. That is the leadership area of the future. It is in housing. Despite what the Fed may or may not do, you can't hold back the housing market. And you can't hold back energy despite the regulatory environment. That's a positive. It will overcome that global weakness. The dilemma for investors is how much it will overcome that global weakness.
We're going to come back to that in a minute.
And how much we should worry about the noise going on in Japan.
Hang on. Lee Munson, I want to give you the same shot. What's the most exciting thing you see out there? You heard Larry Glazer. He's beside himself. His face is turning red. He can't get the tongue moving fast enough to talk about excitement. So, Lee Munson, I ask you, calm and cool and collected from New Mexico, what's exciting?
Well, I love that right now emerging markets are 20% off compared to, say, the S&P 500 this year. So if you're a long-term investor with a strong philosophy, I'm so excited that I get to have a value bias in those global markets, different from what Larry, Larry's not so excited globally. So if I have to rebalance portfolio and keep people on long-term, portfolio allocation, I can go in there and I can put new money to work that's way off, that has a value bias, and that I think over time we're going to make a lot of money in these emerging markets, and they're cheap. So I think it's great when I get new money from clients. I know where I can focus and put it to good use.
You're excited about emerging markets. Let me just follow up for both of you. Let me stay with Lee. Lee, what's the thing that keeps you up at night? What most worries you right now?
What worries me right now is that investors in general and keeping our clients from dumping their bond portfolios because they're concerned about what the Fed may or may not do and when and where. So what we've had to do to mitigate that risk, Larry, is to go a little bit higher quality, a little bit shorter term. And if we want to get returns in the market, we've really got to stick to the stock market and let our bond side just be a dampening. So I worry that I have to give up potential returns in the bond market because I really don't know how the Fed is going to affect interest rates going forward.
All right, Larry Glazer, what worries you the most? Is it the Fed, as Lee Munson suggests? Is it the American economy, as some of the numbers suggest? What's your biggest worry?
I'm not worried about the Fed at all. I think the market's done the Fed's work for them. They've jawbone rates up, and we'll be able to sleep well about the Fed. What worries me is that investors have been chasing yield, and they are still hiding out in a lot of these defensive names. They're very richly valued, whether it's a real estate investment trust or utilities. Some of these areas, limited growth. There's not a future there, but we're overpaying for past earnings, and investors are losing sight of where opportunity is. I actually agree with Lee that the emerging markets, down 5 weeks in a row, may be a better opportunity than some of the domestic names that are just simply overpriced.
Give me a domestic name. Give me a domestic name you like, a domestic name or two that you actually like.
Sure. Well, first of all, I look at the energy sector. How about the FCG, which is the nat gas ETF? Something along those lines. It's Harold Ham stories in the paper. There's a reason why he's rich, right? There's a lot of money in them hills, and I think that is a good story. There are a whole host of ways to play it. I like the basket, Larry. I like the basket play. I also like the basket play on the domestic mid-cap names. Again, corporate America's rich. They get a lot of cash. Put that cash to work. You'll see M&A activity in the second half of the year, regardless of what the Fed does.
All right, put the cash to work regardless of the Fed. Lee Munson, how long will this correction last? We're down about 3% on the Dow. I know you have 100% prescience on these matters. How long will the correction last?
My crystal ball tells us the correction will probably last for another couple weeks and that we're not going to get what everybody wants, which is some big down 10% correction where everybody says now is the time to buy. So at this point, I think we got our correction, and that means a sideways market last couple months, a tepid 3% decline. But unfortunately, the crystal ball gets a little hazy because it's a little bit, late in my day. So I would say put your money to work now. Don't wait for something that may not have happen. And like Larry said, please don't sell all your bonds to buy high yield stocks and REITs. Just use this correction, get the money in there, make some money. It's Capitalist Friday, Larry.
Capitalists are terrific.
Embrace the volatility, Larry. Embrace the volatility. We'll get more of it this week.
Love it.
If the American economy would grow faster, I'd say buy cyclicals, but we don't know that yet. So thank you, gentlemen. Larry Glazer, Lee Munson, we appreciate it.